Alright, so who's ready? Who's ready? Who's ready to start getting things kicked off here? We are going to be doing finale part 1 this evening. The finale for this game is about as long as Sumi Horoboshi's finale. But since I know that some people here, like, they work late at night, and I know that they want to catch it, I'm going to split the finale up over the course of 2 nights instead of just doing it in one night like I normally would. Since we're, like, super late, and, like, this is kind of, like, where all of the revelations are coming out, I don't want people to kind of miss those parts of the story, we're going to split this chapter in half. So we'll be doing the rest of the finale tomorrow night, but for now, we are going to go ahead and get the first part of this finale chapter started. So, who's ready to massacre all of the problems that get in our way? That's clearly what they're talking about. When I woke up, the first things I saw were Satoko and the calendar. The first one to wake up is supposed to tear yesterday's date off the calendar. Sometimes we both tear the calendar off by mistake, so the date ends up 2 days ahead. Satoko likes to tear the calendar, and that makes her wake up early every morning. That would usually make me smile, but I felt devastated as soon as I saw the 22 on the calendar. It's going to happen today, June 22nd, the day I die. Look, it's Miss Positive!
おはようございますですわよ、リカ。
One of these, see, like at one point in time, the girl on the left used to be the trash child. But now we have diverted that title to the one on the right. We're going to throw Ghost Girl in the trash. Because she doesn't know how to be positive.
二人？あらあら、まだ寝ぼけてるでございますの？
Wow, just
out and out with it, Rika. Okay. She's just like, I don't give a crap anymore. I'm just gonna say it. Wow.
もう、朝から怖がらせるのはなしでございますわよ。
これでさとこは今晩怖くて僕の手を握ってないと寝られないのです。
Sometimes I feel like Satoko can see Hanyu, and it's as if the three of us are living together. That would be a lot of fun. It was time to go to school, but my body felt heavy. Today, I was going to die. Knowing that, I didn't even feel like going to the school. The more I repeated the same life, the more precisely I can detect my day of death. I always die on the day I feel this way.
リカ？そろそろ学校に行きますわよ。
僕は、今日はお休みしますです。
リカ、圭一さんに聞きましたけど、何か悩み事があるって本当なんですの？
あると言えばあるし、ないと言えばないです。
What else is there left to do? Today is the day. It's too late now. But part of me still feels like doing something. I've been in this world for only a few days. My emotions went up and down like a roller coaster. Sometimes I felt motivated to fight, and other times I felt desperate and gave up. Even though Keiichi and everyone else showed me such strength, I lacked the iron will to fight against my fate. The most confidence I ever felt was when the dice all came up 6, a fortunate coincidence that was just handed to me. I was hoping to gain the courage to fight against my fate, but here I am today, conceding to destiny. Keiichi told me we can make a miracle happen if we work together, but there was something he didn't teach me. He didn't teach me how to believe in that. If I don't believe that I can make a miracle happen, I won't be able to even make a crack in the wall of fate. It seems so simple, yet it's so difficult. I couldn't even decide whether I should be on stage or stay off it and remain as a spectator. I told Hanyu that I haven't decided what to do after this world is over, but that's the spectator's point of view. For the people on the stage, this world is the only one. For them, the end of the world means the end of their lives. That's why they'd do anything to change their fate. That's why they can make a miracle happen. I never worked hard enough because I always knew that I could reset my life. I thought I was just one pathetic girl who couldn't change her own fate. That's why I ended up here again today. It's as if I slacked off on my summer homework and woke up on the last day of vacation with nothing completed. What should I do? Should I not work on my assignment knowing that I'm not going to make it on time anyway? Or should I do whatever I can, even though I may still get in big trouble? What are we gonna do? You got a 2-year late message? Perhaps a miracle will happen. Perhaps the homework will be done overnight. Miracles don't happen to homework. I have to do the homework on my own. Without effort, nothing will ever get done. Without effort, not even one question will be solved.
リカの好きなように過ごすといいと思いますのです。リカの大好きな窓際で甘いワインを飲むのもリカらしい過ごし方だと思いますのです。どうせ怒られるなら最後の一日も気ままに過ごそうという開き直りね。
Yeah, it actually is. For Hanyu, it's not about the homework. It's more about the vacation itself. The vacation will be over, no matter how much I want it to continue. In her eyes, it's pathetic for me to make a big deal out of not completing my homework, and contemplating whether I should still work on it or not. On top of that, I'm saying that I might as well die if my vacation is going to be over. If I was in her situation, I'd be laughing hysterically. Keiichi told me to seek everyone's help in order to finish my homework, but I'm not taking that offer, not only because I don't want to cause them trouble, but also because I don't want the teacher to know that I got help from them. If I was going to have regrets, I should have worked on it from the beginning. If I had no intention of working on it, I should have just relaxed without stressing so much. If I didn't care what other people thought, I should have asked for their help in the first place. These are the 3 options I talked about with Hanyu yesterday. I didn't choose any of them. I've been living for over 100 years, but I still can't decide. My 100 years were wasted.
さとこ、僕は今日風邪をひいてしまったのでお休みしますです。
そうなんですの？体温計でお熱を測ります？
今日はゆっくりさせてくださいです。知恵には僕は風邪で休むと伝えてほしいのですよ。
リカ、本当に風邪なんですの？なんだか命を狙われてるような話をしているって圭一さんが言ってて、私本当に心配してますのよ。
ありがとうです。もう行かないと遅刻しますですよ。
Satoko looked at the clock, then looked back at me again.
私は今すごく幸せですのよ。みんなと楽しく過ごせて、またリカと一緒に暮らせるようになってとても嬉しいんですの。だからリカがいなくなったら私がどれだけ悲しい世界に生き続けなくちゃならないかよく考えてほしいでございますのよ。
僕のいない世界。
ええ。リカのいない世界なんてとても辛くて悲しい世界ですわ。
I'd never thought about that. I thought that the world ended when I died. I never thought about the world after my death. That was never my concern.
だからどうか自分をリカが思ってる以上に大事にしてほしいんですの。リカ一人の不幸じゃない。リカに悲しいことがあれば、私もそしてみんなも不幸になることを決して忘れないでくださいますですのよ。
さとこ。
リカ、今日はそっとしておきますけど、悩みがあるなら絶対に相談するんですのよ。仲間が悩んでいるのに自分を頼ってくれないこともまた悲しいんですから。
Satoko seems like she wanted to say more, but she looked at the floor instead. I know what she's trying to say. I realize how selfishly I've been living. It was wrong for me to look at this world as a stage play, but it's too late. It's too late now. Satoko left the house in a hurry. Hanyu and I were left alone inside the house.
僕もお邪魔でしょうから、リカが呼ぶまで消えていますの
No,
で
we
す。
need more of your shiningly positive personality here to brighten the place up, Hanyu. Come on, spread some joy.
気が利くのね。100年生きてもリカはリカです。
Yep, Satoko's doing some good here. I think that little speech is gonna come back, and I think she's gonna realize.
100歳の仙人にはなれないのです。リカには、年相応に悩んで、考える時間があってもいいと思います。僕がリカに背伸びを敷いたこともあるかもしれませんのです。羽生は悪くないわ。私が勝手に天狗になってただけよ。僕とおしゃべりしたいときは呼んでくださいです。もう泣きつかないの？私がこの世界で終わりにするのを撤回してほしいって。リカは頑固な人ですから。言えば言うほど逆効果になりますのです。さすが、付き合いが長いだけのことはあるわね。もうリカも悟っているようですから、言います。今日です。悔いのない一日を。リカが何をしてもしなくても、朝が来て夏休みが終わるように、この世界も終わります。でも、リカが望めば、次の朝も訪れる。そして、それはまたしても、今年の6月かもしれないけれど、朝は朝。もっと小さい頃、毎日が退屈で、毎朝、起きても同じ日が繰り返されてるんじゃないかって思ったことがある。それが本当になるだけのことだしね。今日を有意義に生きてくださいとだけ言いますのです。これ以上は僕は何も言いませんのです。多分今日だろうと思っていたけど、あんたにはっきりと言われると答えるわね。やっぱり終わるのね。今回も。はい、今回も終わりますのです。いつもと同じように。
Hanyu disappeared and it went completely quiet inside the house. How should I spend my day? How should I end this day? Should I work on my homework knowing that I'm not going to make it on time? I only had half a day left. I have to do my best. I should think about what I can do. The world is supposed to be a happy place. People are enjoying their lives. I should have enjoyed my life more too. I don't mean in that I should have lived my life in blind optimism. It means that I should have enjoyed my life by fully experiencing both happiness and sadness. If I did that, I wouldn't be as worried about what to do after my death. I should have simply lived with all of my might. When the time comes, it'll be over. Oh, we're going. We're going in? Are you choosing to believe? Is that some positivity I hear? Yeah, it's really good, isn't it? That's a very important phrase, but it sounds meaningless when I say it, because I can repeat this meaningless life as many times as I wish. While Satoko was at school, I washed the dishes. Hanya would usually stay with me when Satoko wasn't around, but she's not here right now. It had been a while since I was here all by myself. I never thought anyone could feel so lonely while washing dishes. I'm going to die today anyway. This world is ending today. Why should I wash these dishes? That's because I'm thinking about Satoko, who will have to move on with her life after tomorrow. I will encounter a new Satoko in the next world, but I realized something after hearing what Satoko told me earlier. After I'm dead, I wonder how Satoko will move on with her life. The worlds that I've lived in the past all went on without me. I wonder if Satoko will be able to cook without me. I wonder if she can go shopping on her own. I wonder if she can wash her clothes by herself. I've been avoiding thinking about this, but Satoko and my other friends must have been overcome by sadness. It's too late for me to think about this, but I started feeling like I wanted to cry. I'm feeling like this because I don't want to leave this world. This is the world that I've always wanted. It's my hope that I can continue to live in this world beyond June 1983. After a long journey, I finally ended up in this world, but I was able to truly live in this ideal world for only one night. The night of Watanagashi. This world will be shattered again after I die tonight. We finally saved Satoko, and all of our friends assume that our happy life has returned. However, I'm going to die tonight. They will mourn for me. We worked so hard to make a miracle happen, but they're going to lose their happy world in just one day. Am I going to start a new life in the next world as if nothing happened? I'd lived 3 days in my new world, but 3 sad days were going to pass in this world. That's not good. I can't think straight anymore. I couldn't stop the tears from flowing from my eyes. I hugged Satoko's pillow and cried. I could smell her scent. After I die, Satoko will probably hug my pillow and cry just like this. Is everyone else going to cry for me too? I'm sure they will, and they'll be sad. Not about my death. They'll be sad not because I'm dead, but because I never told them about what was troubling me so much. I wonder if they're going to feel regret. Will they wonder what they could have done to open up my heart? What they could have done to help me in my time of trouble? How are you not realizing this? You've seen so many worlds, and you literally just solved this problem in this world. Will they wonder what they could have done to save me? I felt miserable and frustrated. I held Satoko's pillow and continued to cry. And the next moment, I heard the phone ringing. I tried to ignore it, but it wouldn't stop ringing. I picked up the phone, hoping that my friends would call to check on me. However, I heard a weird guy's voice coming over the receiver.
どうも、お世話になっておりますんで、おこのぎ造園と申しますが、古出さんのお宅でいらっしゃいますか？
おこのぎ
It was Okonogi from the Mountain Dogs. It was the first time I'd received a phone call
緊
from
急
him.
のご連絡がしたくってお電話させてもらいました。学校にお電話したら、今日は休んだと言われましたもので。具合は大丈夫ですかいね？
I'm not alright. This is the day I die. I knew he had no idea, but I still couldn't help but feel
風邪
upset.
なのです。ちょっと今日はゆっくりしていますです。
そうですか。偶然とはいえ、それは好都合だったですんで。
え、
I had no idea what made him say that he was glad that I was
どうし
sick.
て僕が風邪をひくと、おこのぎの好都合になるのですか？
いえ、実はあなたの命が狙われている可能性があるっちゅう連絡が入ってきたんです。
Uh-huh?
それはどういうことなのですか？
この度の富武氏たちの事件なんですが、東京の調査の結果、入江所長が黒幕である可能性が高いっちゅう連絡が入ってきました。
入江が黒幕？
This is the first time I've heard something like this. This isn't something that happens at random. It's the very first time. That means it's not a coincidence. I'm hearing this now because of something that I did differently in this world. I've done many things differently in this world, though. I can't tell which decision led me to this result. However, maybe this is something that could change my life drastically. Okonogi continued to explain to me. There had been budget cuts to their research, and they were scheduled to be shut down within a few years. Irie was strongly against that because he was embezzling their research money by requesting bigger and bigger budgets. Because they were going to cancel their research, he tried to sell the research data and make a lot of money off of it.
それは本当なのですか？
信じたくないでしょうが、事実ですんで。まあ、入江所長はどこか後ろめたそうなところがありましたんよ。
Dang, guys, can you believe Irie is the rat here? Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Wow. I think I can say with certainty that Irie is not that type of person. I've been around him for years, and as far as I know, he's not a bad guy. He doesn't even have the guts to be one. He pretends to be cold-hearted for the sake of his research, but he can't shake his regrets. He's simply a nice person. It's hard to believe that he was embezzling money from Tokyo. I'm starting to be suspicious of Takano, but she's actually a nice person too. She seemed mean at times, but she could also act as innocent as a child. However, I'm starting to suspect her because Oishi told me that the body they found in Gifu might not be Takano's body. Okinogi works for Takano. That means I can't trust Okinogi. In other words, I can trust Irie, but Okinogi is clearly just trying to set him up. On the other hand, if Takano isn't guilty, I could be making a huge mistake. Yet it always seemed to me as though Tomitake and Irie were good friends. If Tokyo had suspected that Irie was embezzling money from them, Tomitake would have treated him as far more coldly. Anyway, at the very least, Tomitake of Tokyo didn't have such a bad impression of Irie. The Irie of the Irie Institute and Tomitake of Tokyo were good friends. Tomitake of Tokyo and Takano of Tokyo were good friends. Takano of Tokyo and Okinogi of Tokyo were superior and subordinate, but Okinogi of Tokyo says that Tokyo is suspicious of Irie. This doesn't make sense. Everyone seems to be good friends at first glance, but the links don't connect from start to finish. Irie thinks he has a positive relationship with Tokyo, but Tokyo is suspicious of Irie? That's just odd. The chain should be connected, but one of the links is twisted out of order. It's breaking the loop.
すでに東京が内定に着手してますんで、詳しいことはもうちょい待ってほしいそうです。また、入江はあなたを何らかの交渉の最後の切り札に使おうとしている可能性があるらしく、あなたに対する警護体制を本日よりさらに強化せよとの命令が来ました。
Don't worry, guys. Rika's gonna be safer now because the mountain dogs are tightening her security. It'll be fine.
それでご自宅にいられる運は都合がいいと言ったんです。
And now she's at home. That makes it easier for them to tighten her security. Like, this actually ends up working out for her, I think.
すでに古出神社の周辺は山犬が3交代、20人体制で警護に入らせていただきました。
It doesn't get more protected than that. She's literally got 20 security people on detail right now.
もちろんご安心く
You all
ださ
should
い。
be breathing a sigh of relief
それっ
here.
ちゃわからないように気を利かせてますんで。
すごい警護体制なのです。その警護はいつまで続くのですか？
東京から解除の命令が来るまでずーっとですんで。今回の一件が解決するまでです。
That should have been good news for me since today is the day that I was supposed to die. This is exactly the kind of security I wanted. See? See? That's why I let Takano into the ritual storehouse. However, I have a bad feeling about this. Tokyo should be my ally. But the arrangement is just like Irie's relationship with Tokyo. Everything seems in order from my end, but when you trace it the other way, it feels like something's off at some point. I have this uncomfortable feeling because I have a few uncertainties about Tokyo. Tokyo and Irie have strong ties, but they're suspicious of him? Is Irie actually a bad guy? Is Takano still alive, and is she the one who killed Tomitake? Those questions and more made me uncertain about accepting help from Tokyo. I thought Tokyo, as a single organization, would move with a single intention, but in reality, they have multiple different intentions. In other words, there must be multiple... what's the word? I see it in the political section of the newspapers all the time. Alright, factions. Yo, John, you can actually watch these again. Yeah, it's weird seeing you back after so long. I saw your name pop up and I was like, wait, what? John, you're gonna get spoiled. Oh, wait. No, you literally just read 800 chapters of this story in 2 weeks. Are the two factions in Tokyo? One that wants to remain friendly with Irie and one that looks down on him? That would explain the irregularities I'm sensing. Maybe I have been talking to Oishi too much. If he hadn't told me that he was suspicious of Takano, would I have believed Okinogi without a doubt? Well, maybe not. Even without Oishi's theory, Okinogi still sounded very suspicious. Irie was loyal to his research on Hinomizawa Syndrome. Tokyo understood this, so his relationship with Tomitake wasn't particularly strained. Plus, Irie isn't the type of person who would commit embezzlement. He's a law-abiding citizen with a good moral character. Of course, he has some ambition as a researcher, but that only goes as far as common sense expects any researcher But that only goes as far as common sense expects any researcher to. It's nothing like the criminal aspirations that would lead to major embezzlement. A great number of the mountain dogs were going to be guarding me. This is what I've been wanting in my previous lives, but for some reason I couldn't be happy about it. I couldn't help but feel depressed. If this house is like an empty bird cage, then they'd be the fox with feathers stuck to their face. I don't know if I can really trust the people who are protecting me. I tried to recall more about Okanogi. The mountain dogs have been protecting me for years. Okanogi proved his skills in many of my other lives. To them, I'm something of a special existence. If something happens to me, it would be a disaster. The EDA Institute is there to keep Hinomizawa Syndrome under control, and the mountain dogs are there to protect me from the evildoers. So why would they try to betray me now? I thought about it for a while, but I had no idea. I just know one thing for sure. I can't feel comfortable with the protection of the mountain dogs alone. I want someone other than Tokyo protecting me, but I bet such a person wouldn't believe me. Wait, what about Oishi? I've been keeping in touch with Oishi since the other day. He still thinks that the mysterious deaths in Hinomizawa are all plotted by the village authorities. If he believes that, then he might believe that my life is in danger. For him, I'm a special person with lots of useful information. The mountain dogs hate the police, though. When I asked them to assassinate Satoko's uncle, they refused because he was being watched by the police. I would feel relieved if the police were guarding me along with the mountain dogs. That way the dogs wouldn't be able to harm me, even if they were working for the evil faction of Tokyo. Besides that, if my suspicions towards them turned out to be baseless, more protection couldn't hurt. I'm sure that double security will keep me safe.
わかりましたです。今日はおとなしくしていますです。
ええ、そうなさってくださるとうちらも助かりますんで。町へ繰り出して変なチンピラに喧嘩でも売られるとうちらも苦労しますん。
根に持たれているのです。
では、そういう風お大事になさってください。
風邪の診察に診療所に行ってはいけませんですか？
万が一ということがありますんで、入江診療所には当分近寄らないでください。妙な注射でも打たれやすと大変ですかいね。
入江はそんなことしないです。
しないとうちらも思いたいですがね。その疑いが解けるまでちょいとしばらく慎重にしてほしいっちゅうこってん、安情ご理解をいただきたいんですわ。
すったらんしゃもないのです。
Oh shit, Okanogi's in the house! He's not on the phone anymore!
おこのぎもいつの間にかすっかり地元言葉になりましたです。
最初は
Oh, no, he's back on the phone again.
直せと言われれば直せるつもりですがね。地域に溶け込むのが仕事ですから。
I finished speaking with him. As soon as I hung up the phone, I opened up my phone book and looked for the number to the Okinomiya Police Department. It was nearly noon. I felt like the pages of the phone book were sticking to my skin. I must have been in a hurry. I really don't want to die. I want to stay in this world. I don't want to leave this perfect world. I'm trying to do something because I don't want to die. I'm trying to live with all my might. I'm trying to enjoy my life. For the first time, I was spending my last day positively, without drinking wine until I was drunk.
もしもし、大石です。お待たせしてすみませんでしたね。ちょいと今からお隣の県警に行ってこようとしてたところでした。どうもあちらさん話が通らないんで、直に襟首を掴んでゆすってやろうと思いましてね。
県警、高野の死体のことですか？
ねえ、周りは勝手に納得して高野の死体に間違いないって繰り返すんですが、
No, she's not buying it.
それで直接行って見てこようと思います。死体が高野でないと分かれば話は一気に急展開しますからね。高野を重要参考人として手配できます。幸い向こうの柔道部とは交流がありますので、お隣の県警さんにも味方は大勢います。ちょいとみっちり話し込んできますよ。
It looked like Oishi was proactively moving forward with the investigation. If that body is really Takano, that would be sad for her, but it would give me reason to trust the mountain dogs. If it's not Takano, then it would tell me that she's a part of this whole incident. No matter what the result is, it will give me some kind of hint. But only if I'm still alive. But really, it's unfortunate. Oishi is leaving for Gifu. He can't be around to protect me.
実は変な声の電話があったのです。知らない人でしたが、村人だと名乗りましたです。
匿名の電話ですか。続けてください。その電話は何と？
僕を殺そうとしている人たちがいるというのです。早ければ今日にも決行すると言ってますです。
それは本当ですか。なるほど。それはありえない話じゃないな。
Jetstorm over here. He's going to replace Kumagai as Oishi's assistant. Is that what's going on here?
わかりました。私はもう出発しなければなりませんので行けませんが、警官を何人か行かせます。駐在にも連絡して、あなたの近辺を警戒するように伝えましょう。今日はご自宅ですよね。風邪か何かですか？家にいて戸締まりをしっかりしてください。
Coming for yours. Lock your doors.
すぐに警官を行かせます。
おいさん、どうしたんすか？先方との約束の時間ギリギリですよ。
今ね、フルでリカから電話がありました。匿名の電話があり、彼女の命を誰かが狙っているらしいと警告してきたらしいって言うんです。
フルでリカをですか？どうして？村のマスコットじゃなかったんですか？
連続開始事件絡みで私と接触してたことに対する警告じゃないかと見てます。本当に殺すかどうかは疑わしいが、彼女も年頃の子供です。命を狙われていると聞かされたら穏やかにはいられないでしょう。それにここで信頼を損ねると以後の関係にも支障をきたしますからね。 2,3 人でいいです。大至急行かせてください。あと駐在さんにも連絡して、とりあえず彼女を安心させてあげてください。
了解っす。
Rika Furude might have some kind of hint regarding the mysterious deaths in Hinomizawa. Oishi couldn't let her die.
私たちも現地の分からず屋どもを締め落としたらすぐに南沢へ行きましょう。ちょいとハードな出張スケジュールになりましたよ。
こんなの楽勝っす。
こちらひばり。駐在警官が境内に入りました。R宅へ向かっています。
了解。引き続き監視されたし。
R と接触。警官を中に入れました。沖宮署に R から連絡があったようです。
Oh, they know. That's probably good.
自身の身辺警護を依頼したと思われます。
うちらのことは喋ったんかいね。
命を狙われているとの匿名電話があったと言っています。作り話でしょう。またそれとは別に沖宮署から私服警官が数人派遣されるようです。
何年？山犬だけじゃ信用できんって国会ね。
Why wouldn't you trust the mountain dogs?
厄介ですね。監視体制にも支障が出ます。
まさか気づいたんじゃねえんかね。そんなわけはないとは思うが、全般に職質に注意しろと伝達。疑われたら意味ないんで暗情警戒しろっちゅう伝えてえな。
了解。
Absolutely, you're not wrong about
本部
that.
より全般、古出神社周辺に警察介入の動きあり、職質には特に注意されたし、今夜の決行ですが様子を見た方がよろしいのでは。
連絡はするが三差はやるっちゅう言うだろうな。明朝に R の死亡が発覚して話が進むよう もうお膳立てが済んどるって話だ。
Oh, wait a minute, guys. I don't think the mountain dogs are good. Okay, never mind. I think that getting protection from them was probably a bad idea. I'm just gonna put that forward. I'm gonna put that forward as my theory. As my running theory going forward.
警官に不審と思われとない。もし疑われたら、おとなしを引くこっちゃん。
Oishi had called the officers pretty quickly. The officer who was in the area arrived within 10 minutes after I spoke with him. He asked me what kind of phone call I received today. I decided to make up the whole story. It'll all be over if they check my call history, but I'm sure Oishi won't bother doing anything like that. He thinks I'm worth protecting because I have information about the incidents in Hinomizawa. The policeman is one of the villagers, so I know him very well. More officers are coming here from the Okinomiya department. The officer told me to relax because he'd stay with me until then. Oishi must have thought I was frightened half to death after getting a threatening phone call. After about 30 minutes, 4 officers in plain clothes arrived at the shrine. The local officer returned to his police box.
状況は聞いています。神社周辺に我々が立ちますので、何かあったらすぐに呼んでください。あと、夕方になったら大石刑事がこっちに来ると言っていました。
I was relieved to learn that Oishi would be
どう
coming
か
here.
よろしくお願いしますです。
必ず一人がここの下にいますので。すみませんが、その者にお手洗いだけは貸してもらってもよろしいですか？あと、緊急時用にその者に合鍵を預からせることはできますか？
どうぞです。おトイレも貸しますです。
My house is on the second floor of a storage building. The first floor contains emergency supplies for the village. I'm happy to know that at least one police officer will be here for me. The officers confirm their positions on the map of the shrine. One will be in a storage building and 2 more will walk around the shrine property. Also, one more officer will be standing in front of the stairs that lead to the shrine. This world's Oishi is certainly reliable. In other lives, Oishi tended to look at me as his enemy. Moreover, in this world, he thinks I'm on his side. I'm sure it's because we all became friendly with him around the time we saved Satoko. It was unfortunate at the time, but perhaps the return of Satoko's uncle was a necessary event. If Okanogi was right about Irie, he wouldn't be able to come near me with 20 mountain dogs and 4 police officers protecting me. If Okanogi is the bad guy, they'd be discouraged from acting by the presence of the police. Not too different from giving garlic to a vampire. This is the best protection I've had in 100 years. Even so, am I still going to be killed tonight? I need to do whatever I can. I should struggle as hard as possible. I won't give up. I won't even think about my next life. This is what enjoying life is all about. This is what living seriously is all about.
羽生いる？いますのですよ。どう思う？今回。確かに僕もこういう展開はあまり見た記憶がありませんのです。今回はひょっとしてって思うことはやっぱり罪なのかしらね。僕は期待も失望もしませんです。
Of course you're not. Because you're little Miss Rosie Sunshine.
ただあるがままに訪れる結果を眺めるのみです。
Hanya was still acting like a bystander. I knew she was going to say something like that, but part of me was hoping she would say something more positive. Upon hearing her say what she did, I felt a little disappointed and wondered why Hanya refused to be anything but an onlooker. I always thought it was normal for her to be that way because she's a special existence. I also convinced myself I had to be an onlooker too since I was a similar being. However, I can't just let go of everything and become a bystander. I can't become like her. I can't stop hoping for a better life for Rika Furude. That hope was betrayed so many times and my heart was crushed countless more. That's why I stopped expecting anything to turn out the way I wanted. So, is Hanyu the same way?
羽生も傷つくのが嫌で期待することをやめた。
I've only lived for 100 years, but I know how frightening it is to have high expectations. Hanyu should be aware of that, since she's lived far longer than me. I always thought that Hanyu was a special existence, but Except for the fact that she's invisible, everything about us is the same. She has the same thoughts and feelings as everyone else, yet I saw her as a special existence. That's why I just assumed that her mind worked in a different way.
僕はリカに比べて長くを生きすぎましたのです。喜びより悲しみが後に
Oh, do you want to see Manga Gamer Hanyu
期待
too?
すれば裏切られる方が多いことを
I'll
知
show
り
you
すぎて
Manga
しまい
Gamer
ました。
Hanyu. They made one for like. It's a little more childlike. I don't really like it as much. And Potato Hanyu is great. Potato Hanyu is fantastic. Also, I don't know if they did transparency with her in the original, did they? Yeah, like the Manga Gamer sprites, like I appreciate the effort. I appreciate that they kind of like they wanted to do their own thing with those. Because I think that they didn't think that they could market the game on the original art alone. They probably figured that would be a little too off-putting. So I get it, but I don't like other than a few of them, I don't think that they really capture the character the same way that the PS2 sprites do, and especially the originals, obviously. Like the originals are, I still think, the best.
だからもう何が起こっても心を傷つけたいと思わないのです。
だから今回の世界でも期待しないのね。私がひょっとするとこの運命から逃れられるかもしれないという期待を。羽生は私がどうせまた失意のうちに殺されると思ってる。
そんなことは思ってないのです。
Hanyu looked uncomfortable. She had no doubts that I'd be killed again tonight. That's what it means to not have hope. But she just can't own up to it because she doesn't want to hurt my
羽生
feelings.
も聡子と同じなのね。何かの幸運か誰かが助けて奇跡を起こしてくれるまで戦うことを恐れているだけよ。それを強さだと勘違いしている。つい最近までは私もそうだったけどね。
Okay, I was hoping Rika would at least fucking fess up to it. I was hoping she wasn't that unself-aware. Like, Jesus Christ. Hanyu looked down and bit her lip. She couldn't deny what
あ
I
んた
said.
も何度も聞いてるはず。奇跡ってのはみんなで団結しないと起こせない。団結というのはつまり信じること。みんなで信じないと奇跡は起こせないのよ。
What I just said sounded as though I was blaming her for the miracle not happening. I'll be back in a second. I got a phone thing I gotta take care of. Sorry about that. Had to do some work stuff there real quick. Get some things pushed into my schedule. Sorry about that. We are back. Hello, Raven. Welcome. Why am I wearing a coat inside? This was a very dumb mistake to make. Okay. Alright. What I just said sounded as though I was blaming her for the miracle not happening. Maybe I was too harsh to her. I stayed quiet and Hanyu continued to look at the floor, shaking. Then she looked up at me and spoke. I noticed sadness, but also a little bit of anger in her eyes.
触れることもできず、話すこともできない。見ているしかできない僕も、そのみんなに含まれるのですか？リカに、どんな顛末も見ていることしか許されなかった僕の気持ちがわかるというのですか？
There was a slight severity to the tail end of Hanyu's speech. Except for me, she can't communicate with anyone in this world. She hates to be reminded of that.
やめましょう。この流れは喧嘩になるわね。自分が殺されるまでの貴重な時間をあんたと喧嘩して過ごしたいとは思わないわ。僕もリカと喧嘩をしたくはないのです。でもこれだけは言わせて。私とあなたは友人だと思ってる。だから友人の人生が乗るか反るかという時に期待し、そのことは謝っても期待するかしないかは僕の心の中で好きにさせてくださいなのです。
All of your opinions suck! All of your opinions are literally... Man, wouldn't it be great if we just quit right now? That's so cool! Living hopelessly is fantastic! She can be very stubborn sometimes. Hanyu seems weak on the outside, but she actually has a very strong moral code, one that she wouldn't bend for anything. She apologized to me, but she wasn't being honest. She still wasn't expecting anything good to come from this world. She still thinks I'm going to die pitifully. That's why she refuses to believe in miracles. But I've been living with her long enough to read her mind. I feel bad for her in a sense. She's been living too long and lost all of her hope. Whiny baby noise. I got problems with Hanyu just not having any fucking positivity at all when we've proven that having positivity is something that can be a key to moving us forward. Hanyu told me to call her if anything else happened and soon disappeared. I'm sure she's still around. She's probably still watching me as if she's watching a TV show. The time of my death is slowly approaching. Will I be able to survive this time? It's been a long time since I faced this fear without drinking wine. It's been a long time since I've not been completely loaded thinking about this bullshit. Yeah, we need like after 5Y in here. I was left with nothing else to do after washing the dishes and cleaning the room. The mountain dogs and police were protecting me. Just in case, I figured I should leave something behind for Satoko. Should I write down some recipes for her in a notebook? Will she be happy if I leave a will for her? I laughed at my own foolishness. No one would be happy to read a will. If I die, they'll be devastated and wonder why I didn't talk to them. That's exactly how I felt when Satoko didn't ask for any help when her uncle was abusing her. I wonder, will I be killed before Satoko even comes home? My memories of these days are never very clear. The day I die is always vague in my recollections. It's fine if I'm murdered before Satoko gets home, but if I'm murdered after, then would they kill her along with me? Yeah, like, she's just wasted the entire fucking time. I don't want that to happen. Like, maybe since she's choosing not to drink, she'll fucking remember this time. It's bad enough already that I end up killed. If Satoko's murdered along with me each time, that would be too much to bear. Just how much have I ignored other people's sadness with that rash idea that the world ends when I die? Thinking about that made me feel truly ashamed of myself. I turned on the TV to try and reduce the silence, but it didn't help at all. Worse, not only did the TV not help my fears, it felt like it symbolized Hanyu and my allies, making me feel even more unpleasant. It was past lunchtime, nearly 3 p.m. School should be out soon. I'm not there today, so they probably wouldn't do a club activity. Satoko should be home shortly. It seems I'm going to survive until she gets home after all. If she comes home and asks me what's troubling me, I might end up telling her the truth. If I talk to someone, that person will be demoned away by the mountain dogs. That's why I've never spoken to anyone about it. I didn't want my friends to get into danger, but if Satoko was also murdered likewise in every world because she was involved with me, then we're doomed to share the same fate. It's better to know the truth than to be killed without knowing what's going on, but I'm under very strict security right now. I might be able to survive in this world. If that's the case, I shouldn't talk to Satoko about it. It won't be easy to talk to my friends after all. Moments later, I heard a surprised yell of Satoko's coming from downstairs. She'd returned. It sounded like she was scared to see a stranger in our home. I'd have to tell her that the police were here. That would be tantamount to telling her that someone is out to kill me. I don't know how to explain it to her or how much I should tell her. However, my thoughts were soon interrupted by the noise of a crowd. Satoko hadn't come home alone. Uh-oh.
ただいまでございますのよ。それよりリカ。下のおまわりさんは何なんですの？
私服警官が護衛してるなんてどういうわけよ。
Okay, you brought the squad, didn't you?
あんた一体何をしでかしたの？みーちゃん聞く
Think
こ
you're
と
onto something there, Jetstorm.
一体何があったのリカちゃん。境内の中にも見慣れない人がいました。あれも私服警官ですか？
Go punch him, Shion!
ただごとじゃないんですけど。
俺たちリカちゃんが何を悩んでるのか知らないが、みんなで励まそうって思ってきたんだ。でもどうやらそんな悠長な事態じゃねえようだな。
I couldn't stop laughing upon seeing everyone rush into my house, all asking the same questions. It made me feel as though being depressed all day had just been a waste of time.
リカ、笑ってる場合じゃありませんでしたよ。どういうことなのか説明してくださいまし。
All her friends!
どうもこうもないのです。今日は僕が殺される日なのです。
There we go. That was easy.
Huh?
Everyone already knew that I'd been telling people about how I was going to be killed, but they were surprised to hear it from my own mouth.
なあリカちゃん、俺は確かに昨日リカちゃんから聞いた。自分は誰かに殺されるみたいな話をな。でもそれはリカちゃんの冗談みたいなもんだと思ってた。だがな、もうごまかすのはなしだぜ。話してもらうぜ。
Keiichi spoke with a harsh tone as though I'd made him upset. As my friend, he must think that it's unforgivable that I didn't talk to him about it. He wasn't the only one feeling that way, though. Every single one of them was looking at me with a worried expression on their face.
リカ、私はみんなに助けてもらいましたの。だから、私もみんなのために何かの助けをしたいんですのよ。
She's earning more points. She's earning more points.
気持ちだけで嬉しいのです。
リカが自分で私に言いましたのよ。戦う勇気を持てと。あなたは自分でそう私に言っておきながら実践していないではございませんの。
Satoko pointed out something that I've already realized. I had no way to argue back.
リカちゃんは話せば巻き込まれるって言ったんだよね。リカちゃんが話さなくても私たちは巻き込まれる気でいるんだよ。
そうさ。
Keiichi's like, we're in danger. I am the danger. Give me a ball bat.
俺たちは仲間で部活のメンバーなんだよ。リカちゃんの危機はメンバー全体の危機さ。かつて聡子が危機だった時もメンバー全体の危機として戦った。それと同じだよ。
命を狙われるとか物騒な話になればますます園崎家の出番だと思いますけれど、
それこそ物騒な話に及ぶなら警察より頼もしいですよ。
I'm not gonna doubt that at all.
ねえおね。そうだよ。こういうことこそ相談してほしいね。何をトラブったの？リカちゃんを殺すって脅迫するなんてとんでもない野郎だよ。
まあリカちゃんの口の重さを見る限り心当たりがないのか薄いのかのどちらかだな。相手が分かってりゃ楽な話なんだからな。
Yeah, the voice acting, especially this fucking cast. This cast is so on point that it's just like having this script delivered by them is absolutely beautiful.
みんなは鋭いので、僕が何も話さなくても勝手に話が進んでしまうのです。リカ、はぐらかさないでほしいですわよ。ちゃんとお話しなさいませ。一体何があったんですの？これはどういうことなんですの？警察が来るなんてよっぽどのことですのよ。警察には話せて、どうして私たちには話してくれませんの？
Yeah, give it to her. You know what? Preach, Satoko. Preach it. Preach it.
私たちには話しにくい理由なの？
How are you gonna fucking trust the cops over your friends? The cops!
リカに話しにくいようなやましい理由なんてあるわけありませんでしたよ。
落ち着けサトコ。リカちゃんはこう見えても御三家の当主なんだぞ。お社様の生まれ変わりなんて呼ばれて年寄り連中に盲信されてるんだ。俺たちの想像のつかないところで何か厄介なことに巻き込まれていたということもあるかもしれない。そういうゴタゴタをこれからこの村で楽しく過ごしていこうっていう俺たちに話したくなかったとか、そういうのじゃないのか？
村とリカちゃまに関わるヤバい話ですか。となるとお社様を盲信する年寄り連中の絡みとしか思えません。
Oh yeah, totally them.
ってことは時期的に考えてお社様のたたり関係か。あれだ、富武さんと高野さんが殺された件絡みじゃないかな。
どうして富武さんたちが殺された事件がリカちゃんに関連してリカちゃんが命を狙われなくちゃならないの？話が突飛すぎるよ。
命が狙われてるって時点で十分話がぶっ飛んでる。俺たちが普段知る以上のしがらみがリカちゃんにあってそれを話せないってことなんだろうな。ビンゴだろ。あまり楽しい話じゃないからむしろ仲間には話せないってんだろ。
信じられないですわ。本当なんですの、リカ。何か村とか富武さんたちの事件とかそういうのが関係していますの？
I remained silent with my mouth open. I hadn't answered any of their questions, but they continued to ask and eventually hit the nail on the head. It was more surprising than anything, but then again, these are, after all, my beloved clubmates. I laughed once more. My issues and my secrets are so devastating to me, but they stopped sounding like such a big deal when everyone talked about them together. They knew exactly what was going on without me saying a word. In that moment, I realized just how powerless I am. I had to tip my hat to them. Everything seemed so foolish now, and so I decided to just tell them
話せと
everything.
言うなら話しますです。でもどうせ信じられませんのです。
信じるさ。リカちゃんが真実を語る限り俺たちは疑わない。
Talk to your friends! Everyone's expressions turned grave as they vowed not to make light of anything I told them, and so I'm going to tell them everything. I want to see if they really will believe me or
なら
not.
話します。多分私は富武と高野を殺した犯人に狙われてい
I
ます。
almost believe aliens. I'll believe like anything.
ってことは、それって連続開始事件の真犯人ってこと？
それはわかりません。ですが、その可能性もあります。
意味がわかりづらいですわね。どうして富武さんや高野さんを殺した人がさらにリカも殺さないといけませんの？
Oishi thinks Takano is the culprit. Okunogi thinks Irie is the culprit. Either way, it sounds like someone from Tokyo is trying to kill me. I can't tell if it's Takano or Irie, but I do know that to them, I'm like a trump card. In order to explain everything, I need to talk to them about the relationship between Hinomizawa, Tokyo, and Irie Clinic. I don't think they'll believe me. It's such a ridiculous story, but who would ever believe it, if not my friends?
話せば、みんな巻き込まれますです。いいのですか？
いいに決まってるぜ。リカちゃんが巻き込まれた時点で、すでに俺たちも巻き込まれているんだからな。
Everyone nodded at Keiichi's words.
話しますです。
I'm going to see how everyone reacts. I'm going to ascertain what friendship is all about. With a nod of my own, I opened my mouth and began to explain.
ひなみ沢には、ある特別な病気があるのです。その病気の名前は、仮なのか正式なのかわかりませんですが、ひなみ沢症候群と呼ばれていますです。
Everyone glanced back and forth at each other when I mentioned the term. They'd never heard of it before. The name Hinomizawa Syndrome has actually been around since before the war. It's the general term for the severe homesickness and mental instability that people from Hinomizawa experience when outside of the village. People in Hinomizawa have refused to leave the village since the era of Onigafuchi. The villagers believed that they'd be cursed by Oyashiro-sama if they left, and people who did often came back because of that curse. In general, it used to be thought of as only severe homesickness, but during the war, soldiers from Hinomizawa became mentally deranged in faraway places. That does sometimes happen in war. What was unique about the soldiers from Hinomizawa was the way that they killed their own comrades and committed suicide at the end. One doctor became curious about these cases and studied those soldiers. That's when they found out that it was actually a disease only found in Hinomizawa. According to this doctor, their strange behavior was not the result of their culture. It was a mental disease triggered by external circumstances. A mental disease with an external cause is different from a psychological illness. It's the result of some kind of physical disorder, and it causes people to become mentally unstable when something triggers it. There are three categories of externally caused mental diseases: traumatically induced, substance abuse induced, and chemical imbalance induced. Traumatically induced disorders are causes resulting from the damage to the brain, that trauma or infection that influences the mind. This is the reason the personalities can change as a result of head injuries. Substance abuse, as the name suggests, refers to cases where drugs, especially alcohol and stimulants, have influenced the mind. The last category is chemical imbalances. These are cases where some ailment of the person's body causes abnormal secretions of bodily chemicals, which then influence the brain's functions. This may sound odd, but it's been said that people tend to become depressed when they have a cold. We've all experienced the ways in which physical sickness can cause a buildup of negative emotions. However, with chemical imbalances, the cause is more direct. People's emotions aren't born from our hearts. Everyone should know, logically, that they're the result of chemicals secreted by the organs in our body as necessary. So when the organs operating the secretion of those emotional controllers malfunction, it causes them to secrete abnormal amounts. The thyroid gland, for example, secretes hormones that regulate emotions. When the gland is defective, the balance of those hormones becomes unstable. This can cause people to have not only a physical sickness, but also mental sickness, such as depression. People don't get mentally ill just because of mental problems. Human beings are made out of meat. They're made out of meat, everybody. We finally figured it out. We solved the case. We know. Yeah, like, Rika saying all of this is really funny, and she's doing it in little girl voice, not grown-up Rika voice. Human beings are made out of meat. We get mentally ill when that meat is defective. The doctor studying Hinomizawa Syndrome also came up with a therapy. He suggested that there is a pathogen endemic to Hinomizawa that, if the hosts stray too far from home, affects the chemicals of the brain and causes them to hallucinate. I think that word was theory back there, by the way. Yep, theory, not therapy. The villagers believe in Oyashiro-sama is certainly related to this endemic disease. People in Onigafuchi village knew about this syndrome. They knew that they couldn't survive outside the village. They also didn't want anyone else to enter the village because they would get infected too. They took this disease as a curse, not a sickness. The most significant symptoms of this disease are antisocial behavior and an extreme persecution complex. The eventual suicide caused by defects in the lymph nodes are also another unique characteristic. The unusual behavior of terminal patients is what inspired the legend of demons coming out of the swamp and attacking the villagers. Basically, sick villagers developed severe persecution complexes and wound up killing other villagers. Yep, more good education there. After a long time, survivors of the disease started to comprehend its rules. They discovered that the disease is incurable once you contract it. That's why they started barring outsiders from entering the village. Also, once you become ill, you will begin developing a persecution complex. This can happen to anyone in the village. The doctrine of Oyashiro-sama says that the blood of humans and demons was mixed together and that Oyashiro-sama has control over the violent blood of demons. People said that you're cursed if you don't follow Oyashiro-sama's rules. That could also be understood to mean that as long as you followed Oyashiro-sama's rules, you could cope with this endemic disease. That is what was meant by the scripture in Oyashiro-sama's legends. It said that they appeared, unified humans, the demons, and made them live together in this village. So, an interesting thing is that, like, this endemic disease thing, I think it's purely believable, and I think it's based on actual, like, facts. Maybe not disease, but when I went to get my new glasses, they did some 3D imaging of my eyeballs. And they found that there is I have a fungus in my eyes that you only get living where I've lived, and it's exclusive to that area of the country, and that it can actually be responsible for unknown chest pains and things like that. And like, I had to write it down because if I ever have to go to the emergency room and I have chest pains that I don't understand or know where they're coming from, it could be related to just a weird fungus that's in my eyes that's not harmful or anything, and I don't feel it, but it's there in my eyes, and the guy actually showed me in my eyeball where it's at. So I think that this stuff with Hinomizawa Syndrome is based on some kind of actual, like factual thing like this. Like, this fucking blew my mind when I went to get my glasses and my doctor was telling me this. Are you fucking for real? And he's like, yeah, people that come from where you came from, when I see them and I see this, I know exactly what this is, and I tell them, like, this is something that, like, it's a very low % chance that it could ever affect me in such a way, but if you ever have unexplained chest pains and you don't know what it is, you can tell them that you have this condition, and it's something that they can actually treat. So I was just like, it blew my fucking mind to hear this. The rules prevent symptoms from appearing. Those rules are the taboos, and people were strictly taught that Oyashiro-sama would curse them if they broke those rules. Yeah, so, like, me knowing this shit was coming up about the disease was just like, I have basically what you would call an endemic disease in my eyes. That's fucking nuts! Just, like, the perfect timing of this. It's so good. The horrible bloody traditions of the village were probably performed in order to force people to respect those taboos. There are several ways to keep the disease under control, but there are two main conditions for doing so. Yeah, like, there's a weird fungus in my eyeballs. It's microscopic, but I've actually seen it. It's fucking weird. And he showed me other people's eyeballs, like 3D images of other people's eyeballs. And it's like, yeah, like, it's not in their eyes. And he's like, this is just something endemic to where you grew up. And I was like, that's nuts! The first one is to prevent suspicion. When the villagers are suspicious of someone, it can trigger their persecution complex, which can lead them to developing terminal symptoms. That's why they made sure to have such a tightly knit community, so that people wouldn't suspect each other. Since the terror of Oyashiro-sama's curse is emphasized, many don't know this, but she's also a god of marriage and neighborly love. However, this condition is not as important as the other one. Indeed, Oyashiro-sama isn't even recognized as a god of friendship in Hinamizawa anymore and is only worshipped as such in Okinomiya's Hirosaka district. Retinas are too thin. Now for the other condition. This one is much clearer and was practiced more strictly. If villagers leave Hinamizawa, they will fall ill quickly, proportional to the distance from the village. Villagers nowadays do not get sick as rapidly, even if they leave town or even go out of the country for a long time. However, long ago, they would fall ill as soon as they left the village. It's very unfortunate that Keiichi got infected as soon as he moved to the village. It was also very unfortunate that he got sick just because he left the village for a few days to go to his relative's funeral in the other world. That's why he got sick. Literally the first scene of the game. Literally, like when you first start meeting everybody, he was out of town for a funeral. That's why Hanyu felt so bad for him at the time and kept on apologizing over and over. This is why he heard it. There you go, people. There's your answer. Answer arcs deliver, like I said. Although no matter how much she apologized, he never heard her voice, but he did. This turned into a long discussion, but these rules etched around Oyashiro-sama's curse represent the ancient wisdom of how to cope with the Hinomizawa Syndrome. So, like, Hanyu fucking follows people around and apologizes to them. It's like, Hanyu, my dear, you're really helping! You're helping so much! Is there any way to use this mental disease for military purposes? The aforementioned doctor insisted there was, but the military didn't listen to him at the time. They were still interested in the development of a weapon that could make a dramatic change to the war efforts. They didn't have any money to spare for the research of this strange disease. In this way, research on Hinomizawa Syndrome was abandoned. Then the war ended. Japan started its reconstruction under American leadership. However, some powerful people in the political world didn't want to accept the American way of thinking. Some of them were fired by the GHQ, but they stayed on as advisors to the government, since Japan has a culture of respecting the elderly. Throws Hanyu right in the fucking trash can. Eventually, a political organization was formed, the object of which was to restore Japan to the way it was before the war. In the beginning, this organization was a very small group. It was just a gathering of 2 or 3 individuals who shared the same ideals, blowing hot air at a restaurant. Those 2 or 3 hit it off with each other and grew to the size of a class reunion. The group became a rather sizable organization, eventually becoming a political one. Well, it would be more accurate to call them a secret society. The secret society eventually became called by the name of the place where it was based, Tokyo. There are many mysteries about Tokyo. One thing I knew for sure is that it was composed of old men from Japan's political stage, ones with strong power to indirectly influence the government, and vast assets that meant they could work from the shadows. They were also connected to various corporations, and their goal was to return Japan to the way it was before the war. Nationalists, yeah. It's just, I think Ryukishi also has an issue with nationalists, because that's another common point in Higurashi no Mineko, is that he definitely points out nationalists and how they're kind of shit. Of course, that was a pretty ridiculous goal. It was nothing more than an idea in their minds immediately after the war, back when they were still bowing their heads to the occupation forces of those white barbarians. Once Japan's post-war reconstruction began, Tokyo steadily became a shell of its former self, but it didn't totally become a shell. It culled the fat. Japan regained its peace, and years passed. However, some people still continued to believe that Japan had been better before the war, and they were determined to return the country to those times. So this Tokyo plotted to restore pre-war Japan from many angles. They approach the problem economically, internationally, and militarily as well. Japan has no nuclear armaments due to the three non-nuclear principles. In other words, this country has to brown-nose America as long as they hold nuclear weapons. The number one priority of Tokyo is to be independent from America. They want this country to be on equal footing and to obtain a weapon of mass destruction that isn't nuclear in nature. That was the reason why they started thinking about utilizing Hinomizawa Syndrome. However, they couldn't study this disease openly. In order to utilize it for military purposes, they had to hide the existence of the disease itself. So they enlisted one young researcher, Kyosuke Irie. I need to make it clear that Irie isn't some far-right supporter of this secret society. He's just a young, capable doctor and an earnest researcher. He published an innovative thesis, but other academics thought he was too radical. However, that convinced Tokyo that he was the only researcher suitable to study Hinomizawa Syndrome. As someone young and ambitious, Irie was thrilled to take on the project of studying this rare disease with a large budget, a large staff, and his own facility. But researching the disease would mean that he'd end up infected too. No one would want to take on such dangerous research. He really was too young. With his other option being wearing down his youth, working hard at the night shift in a local practice, he wanted to answer the expectations of the sponsor who carefully selected him. In the end, Irie was able to uncover that, as hypothesized, the Hinomizawa Syndrome was a unique infectious disease, and he developed both a treatment and a vaccine. Irie was extremely talented. The Irie Institute was formed to study the disease. Irie was nominally the head of the organization, but Tokyo still sent out a supervisor, because when all was said and done, he was just a researcher. The supervisor was Mio Takano. Takano's job at the Institute was to act as a go-between for Tokyo and Irie, manage the research progress, and preserve its secrecy. The latter was the most important part of her job. She had to do her best to prevent people from finding out that Irie was researching the disease, or even that the disease exists at all. The Mountain Dogs were formed for that purpose. They were under Takano's command, and their job was to prevent the Institute's secrets from being discovered. The Mountain Dogs are one special forces unit specializing in unconventional warfare and owned by Tokyo with its vast influence of the SDF. Yeah, it doesn't Okinogi, but if he comes up again, I'll have to show his Manga Gamer sprite because it's intense. It's intense as fuck. Tokyo had set their eyes on the likelihood that a small elite squad of covert operatives would be a trump card in an anti-nuke era, so they vigorously investigated those options. This was a worldwide trend since the Cold War. Since the Cold War, everyone avoided sending troops directly to their enemy's doorstep. Japan was also trying to be a part of that world. As a result, by 1983, even the police have been forming secret special force units. The Prefectural Police Squad 2, the ones who intervened when Rena laid siege to her school, changed their name to Zero Company and grew into an anti-terrorism squad that handled hijackings around the Kansai airport area. The National Police Agency's Squad 6 was formed a counterterrorism squad for Narita Airport as well, and they later changed their name to 7th Company as well. They theorized that in a world where nations possessed nukes, that they could use small elite special forces disrupting metropolitan areas would be the new way of waging war. So in 1977, they developed the SAT's predecessor, the Special Task Force, SAP, to serve as the National Police Agency's trump card in securing the peace. Likewise, the Japan Coast Guard established their Special Task Force, the SST, in anticipation of unconventional warfare on the coast. There are several known Special Forces units in Japan. When they hear phrases like Special Forces, most people tend to think of a movie or a comic book. However, those units actually exist and are protecting Japan in secret. During the famous incident of suspicious boats off the coast of the Noto Peninsula, the news reported that a helicopter squad trained in gun battles was headed there, but was recalled because of a suspicious boat sank. But that was because the Coast Guard's SST acted. However, the news never mentions the SST or any other Special Forces unit. All of these units were established after Tokyo made the suggestion about it to the government. Researching military tactics under the name of peace and order worked perfectly for Tokyo. But since the mid-century anti-war movement made people resent those forces, those special units had been kept secret as of 1983. Furthermore, those units are not all formed under the jurisdiction of the police. There are still many other military units that are kept secret from the average citizen. The Mountain Dogs are actually one of those special units. They specialize in kidnapping, espionage, and preserving secrecy. You might as well call them an assassination unit. They were around during the dam conflict as well. Tokyo worked to put an end to the dam project because of the impact it would have on EDA's research. The Mountain Dogs were the ones who kidnapped the Minister of Construction's grandson. Alright, somebody called this as well. So, more points for you. Congratulations. Most people believe that the Sonozaki family was at the center of the movement, but in reality, the Mountain Dogs were responsible for many of the things the Sonozakis were accused of. In that sense, the existence of the Sonozaki family was an advantage to the dogs. Yep, the Sonozakis never fucking did anything! Their main job after the dam conflict ended has been to continue keeping the disease hidden from the public. With the spread of information networks in the modern age, the media jumped onto the unusual incident and quickly aired it to other nations. Tokyo didn't want the disease to be known nationwide since they were trying to utilize it for their own purposes. The Sonozakis likely killed Rina. I don't think that that's a mistake, because they were very clear about men in black suits charging up the stairs, and anytime the Sonozakis are around, we're told that men in black suits are there. So, they're still a Yakuza family. It's just all of the bluster and shit from the dam conflict, they are largely not responsible for the more heinous shit that went down. The main task of the Mountain Dogs is to kidnap people suffering from Hinomizawa Syndrome. The main task of the Mountain Dogs is to kidnap people suffering from Hinomizawa Syndrome. They pose as gardeners, but in actuality they patrol the village to make sure nothing strange happens. They're the ones who demon away people who go missing. They're probably also involved in some of the mysterious deaths, too. The last important person is Jiro Tamatake. I don't know his real name. He was an auditor that was sent from Tokyo 4 times a year. He came to check on the progress of the research and outline requests from Tokyo. He discussed the research budget with EDA too. He also got the observation report on EDA from Takano. That was his purpose. EDA started out by studying the autopsy results of dead villagers, and he discovered many answers from that. In 1979, the Mountain Dogs kidnapped the culprit behind the murder of the construction chief, who was a terminal patient of Hinomizawa Syndrome. The nature of the disease was dramatically clarified. Their research made rapid progress after that, and they discovered a vaccine, medication, and other methods of treatment for the disease. At the same time, they continued to investigate how to utilize it for military purposes. One of the interesting findings of that research was that the pathogen could only be found when the patient is still alive. On top of that, they couldn't detect the presence of the pathogen at all unless they used a certain inhumane method. In other words, it's virtually impossible to detect the pathogen by normal means. It left almost no trace, and the unusual symptoms it produced seemed like voluntary behavior, so they concluded that the disease could be used to their advantage. However, Tokyo had been going through some changes. It had been almost 50 years since the war ended. The leaders in the shadows behind Japan's government, who ruled from the center of Tokyo, began growing infirm and opening up seats, steadily passing their leadership to the new generation. The whole organization had started to shift. Of course, the purpose of Tokyo has stayed the same. It's still a secret society of ultra-nationalists who want Japan to be at the top of the world. However, their ambition to start a war with America and take over the world has diminished. Tokyo has directed its priorities towards the economy international affairs, and education. That doesn't mean that those ambitions are gone entirely, however. Several seniors still alive retain those ambitions. Tokyo continues to finance military research, but for the present-day Tokyo, Idie's research is actually something of an embarrassment. The new Tokyo is no longer interested in his project, and they announced that they're going to cut their budget as soon as the seniors pass away. However, Idie objected to that plan. He strongly appealed for that continuation of his research. This is what Okinogi was talking about. Idie is in disagreement with Tokyo. Idie's research has been making great progress. They've discovered various treatment and testing methods, and he's even starting to develop a treatment plan for the whole village. If they cut his funding, Idie's research would end without any results. Tokyo had a discussion with Idie through Tamatake, and they decided to shut down his research partially, but not fully. However, they told him to immediately stop researching military applications of the disease and destroy all the research data related to that. He had little interest in weaponizing the disease anyway, so Idie accepted those terms right away. Tokyo probably believed that it was better to let him find a cure for the disease than to terminate the project entirely. At this point, Idie considers himself one of the villagers. Perhaps exterminating the disease infecting the villagers without their knowledge is a way for atoning for using the village to advance his research and reputation. Both Tokyo and Idie agreed to fully terminate his research as soon as he discovered a way to completely eradicate Hinomizawa Syndrome. Idie made a plan for the next 3 years, and he promised them that he would find a resolution by 1986 at the latest. The meeting they had this last June was to discuss the plan and budget for the next 3 years. Which brings us back to the beginning. One theory goes that Idie is in opposition with Tokyo, and as his trump card, he's planning to kill Rika Furude. The other theory is that Takano killed Tamatake, and as her trump card, she's going to kill Rika Furude. I suppose I need to explain why Rika Furude can be a trump card. The answer to that lies in the ancient traditions of Hinomizawa. Supposedly, members of the Furude family have the blood of Oyashiro-sama in their veins. I explained earlier that Oyashiro-sama was made up as a method for having people cope with the disease. However, that's actually not true. For the demons, the pathogens, to survive, is a certain being must be present. That being is the successor to the Furude family line. The truth behind the advent of Oyashiro-sama and the coexistence of humans and demons is that Oyashiro-sama was actually the queen of the village. According to Idie's research, Rika is adored by the whole village not only because she's a charming little girl, but because she's the queen carrier. Infected patients are unconsciously driven to protect their queen. Idie says that this is done with pheromones. Rika Furude's mother was also adored by everyone since she was little. However, as soon as she gave birth, the people's attentions quickly shifted to Rika. Idie calls it the succession of the throne. The queen is a precious existence to the people of this village. There are theories that carriers of the disease are actually unable to survive when away from the queen, not from the village itself. Idie's research indicates that the queen can only survive in Hinomizawa, and infected patients can only stay alive when they're around her. But this is just a theory. Surprisingly, however, the doctor who first discovered the syndrome was also aware of the existence of the queen. That doctor was also knowledgeable about Hinomizawa's culture, and he was invested in how much value the village placed on the Furude family. He theorized that the queen lying in the Furude bloodline might have the power to manipulate the whole village. The truth is still unknown, but perhaps the Furude family really has held such power since ancient times, miraculous power, that would make them perfect for serving in the priesthood. Although the only thing Rika can do is be doted upon by the villagers. If it's all true, then the question is, what would happen if the queen disappeared from the village? During the war, a doctor prophesied that if the queen were to die, then all the infected would show terminal symptoms, and the whole village would be wiped out. He advocated for strict preservation of the queen's host. Rika is important to Tokyo, not only because Idie found so many answers after running tests on her body. If Rika Furude dies, the 2,000 people in Hinomizawa will turn into demons. It would happen too fast for people to even realize that they're getting sick. They will each be overcome with a violent persecution complex and start killing each other out of fear. This is why the mountain dogs are protecting the queen, Rika Furude. Her death spells out the end of the whole village. That's why Rika Furude is the trump card for those who know that she's the center of the whole epidemic. This is the story of Hinomizawa. Our tale begins in June 1983. Tokyo's liaison, Tamatake, was found dead of the disease, even though he was vaccinated against it. On the same night, Takano was kidnapped and murdered, though I don't know for sure if she's really dead or not. Rika Furude is also going to be murdered soon enough. While I've suspected Irie and Takano, this was my first time doubting Tokyo. I always thought that they were on my side. They had to be. My death would lead to nothing but disaster. At the same time, there might be people within Tokyo who could use my death as a trump card. I never considered that there were opposing factions within Tokyo. I guess I was naive enough to not to realize that Tokyo had internal problems due to the generational gap. Anyway, I wouldn't be feeling this way if I didn't suspect that Takano might still be alive. I feel like I'm starting to see the greater picture. It's possible, too, that Takano is a victim and Irie is the bad guy. The mountain dogs might be on my side, or they might be assassins who are trying to kill me. I was too scared to choose a wine that might be at risk of having something poisonous mixed in. In which case, I could rest assured with a fresh, unopened bottle, even if it was a little bad. After telling everything to my friends, I finally realized that I can only trust them and the police. I'm really dumb. I thought I was thinking so hard, but I never actually understood anything. After all this time, I made things clear by just talking about them with my friends. I'd never thought that it would make such a big difference. And that's the end of my story. I narrated all of that shit. How y'all feeling now? I just Metal Gear cutscened my friends. Let's see how they're dealing with it. As I thought, everyone was staring at me with their mouths open in shock. Even Oishi couldn't believe a story like this. That's only normal. I'm sure I sound like a crazy person. Yeah, it was literally a Metal Gear Solid cutscene. Like, you could see them, like, interspersing real-life footage over some of that stuff. Like, you can totally see it! Oh, by the way, Toko, you're really sick.
サトコが病気みたいなことを言ってたよな。
私がリカの話なら私だけじゃなく、この村に住むみんなその怪しげな病気にかかってることになるんじゃありませんの？でも、どうして私だけがお注射しなくちゃいけないんですの？監督の作っている新型の栄養剤の実験じゃないんでございますの？サトコは一度末期症状を迎えてしまっているのです。だから日に2回のお注射がないとすぐに症状がぶり返してしまうのです。入江はサトコを救おうと特に熱心に研究してくれていました。でも毎日2回の注射をしなくてもいい体にはどうしても戻す方法が見つけられなかった。でもいつか見つけると意気込んで今日も熱心に研究を続けてくれていますです。冗談じゃないですわよ。私たち監督の怪しげな研究に協力してお金をいただいてるんじゃありませんの？あんな注射一生やれなんて冗談っぽいでございましたよ。
So Toko looked upset that she had been completely ignorant of all this. She also didn't want to accept the reality of having to manage her condition. Her fake laughter sadly echoed in everyone's ears. Keiichi opened his mouth to speak.
その注射を一回でもしないとあの日みたいになるんだな。
There was a day where she forgot to take her shot. She convinced herself that the principal was her uncle. Her fear escalated and she thought her uncle came inside the school to take her back home. Once she feels that way, there's no turning back for her.
そうです。だから、僕は聡子が宇宙車を忘れないように、毎日しつこく言っているのです。
そんな、信じられませんわ。
We believe our friends, Satoko. I thought we agreed. I thought we had an agreement.
大体何なんですの、末期症状って。私だけそんなの嫌ですわよ。どうして私が、いつそんな末期症状になったって言うんですの？
Satoko's face contorted as tears began to flow from her eyes. I shouldn't have said this. Satoko is starting to remember something she's not supposed to.
聡子、思い出さなくていいのです。あれは事故なのです。聡子は何も悪くないのですよ。
It wasn't your fault.
嘘ですわ。リカは全部嘘ばっかりなんですわ。
The others probably had no idea what Satoko was talking about. They didn't need to know. They don't want to know about it because they're her friends. Rena gently touched Satoko's shoulder. She gently touched mine too.
私たちは、リカちゃんの話、ちゃんと信じてるよ。ありがとうです。そして、今まで自分一人で、よくそれだけの大変なことを背負ってきたね。リカちゃんは偉いよ。たった一人で、今日まで人に言えない秘密を背負ってきたんだね。
I never thought Rena would say something like that to me. My eyes were filling up with tears.
人に話せない秘密を背負うってのは、悲しくて重いよね。私のは、リカちゃんに比べたら、
Oh, I don't know, Rena. Yours was pretty big. It led to some pretty bad shit if you hadn't talked to somebody. It was, believe me, it was a hand grenade. It was pretty big. It was gonna go off.
少しはわかるつもりだよ。
そうですね。お姉もよく頑張ってます。
And you girly girl, you are like a nuclear bomb that's just about to go off.
お姉になすりつけて楽させてもらってるから、よくわかりますよ。
みんなは、僕の話を疑わないのですか？
どうして疑うんだよ。全部信じるって言ったじゃねえか。むしろ、村の秘密が解けたような気がして、俺はすっきりしたくらいだぜ。その、Hinomizawa症候群という病気は感染症で、村に住んでる人はみんなかかってるのかな？
はい、みんななのです。でも、昔とは違います。鬼が淵村の頃に比べると、この病気はとてもおとなしくなりましたです。だから、別に遠くへ引っ越しても平気ですし、旅行だってへっちゃらなのです。
ただし、ものすごく低い確率で発症するってんだろ？俺、怖くてもう村を出られねえな。
もし病気にかかっても、簡単な心構えで病気は抑えられるのです。それは、とても簡単だけど、難しいこと。
It's a good laugh. It's iconic even. If you think you might be suspicious of someone, don't be. I don't know, man. If I was Keiichi, I would just not be suspicious of my friends. I mean, rip your friends, but I'm different. The answer is just don't be suspicious. Oh man, that's good. Oh shit. Oh, okay. 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 If you think you might be suspicious of someone, don't be. Continue to trust in them. When you become too suspicious of someone, that suspicion will degenerate into a persecution complex, and it'll be too late. So long as everyone... Sorry. So long as everyone stays friendly and united, we will never have to worry about this disease. This disease starts with anxiety. Modern people don't believe in curses the way people long ago did. That might be why we're more tolerant to the disease.
なんだ。なら私たちは全然平気だね。
だな。俺たちは仲間で、部活メンバーで、家族なんだぞ。間違っても仲間を疑ったりするもんか。だからリカちゃんの話、俺は丸ごと信じるぞ。そんなヤバい話をすれば、俺たちがその山犬って連中に消されるかもしれないって思って、ずっと言えなかったわけだろ。
I nodded quietly. I don't want to think that the mountain dogs have bugged this room. But if Okanogi overhears this conversation, they will definitely kill not only me, but all of my friends tonight. That's true no matter who my enemy is.
ま、だとすると、すぐに部活メンバーは臨戦態勢に入った方が良さそうだね。状況を整理しよう。リカちゃんを殺すと大惨事になると信じてる連中が、リカちゃんの命を狙う可能性がある。間違いないね。
可能性でなく、必ず殺しに来ますです。どうかな。リカちゃんが切り札なら、そんな簡単に切っちゃう？そうでございますわよ。切り札は殿下の宝刀。向かないうちが花ですもの。
Satoko's eyes were still swollen, but she had stopped crying.
甘いですね、サトコ。切り札は2枚以上あるときに限り、すぐ1枚切ります。そうだね。人質は複数で初めて成立する。一人の人質の価値は複数の時に比べて格段に落ちるからね。
とにかく向こうの状況がさっぱりわからねえ以上、殺されないなんて楽観はありえねえな。
Everyone nodded in unison.
みーちゃんは山犬って人たちをどう思う？敵かな？味方かな？
それは問題じゃないだろうね。僕は善良な狼ですって人に羊の番を頼むかい？
疑わしきは黒でございましたよ。その東京とかいう連中と全く関わりのない人たちに助けを求めた方がいいですわね。
だな。その意味ではリカちゃんが即警察に応援を求めたのは迅速ないい判断ってことになるぜ。大石さんは俺たちの味方なんだよな。
はい、大石には全てを話してはいませんので、僕の命を狙っているのを連続開始事件の犯人、つまり村人の誰かだと信じてるようです。大石さんにも真実を話した方がいいと思うな。大人の力は重要だよ。リスクのある一手ですわね。かえって嘘くさくなって手を引かれるとまずいんではありませんの？
いや、大石さんには話そう。あの人今年が定年で、昔殺された友達の仇を討つ最後のチャンスだって言ってた。だからきっとどんな嘘くさい話でも信じてくれると思うんだ。
うん。大石さんは聡子ちゃんを助ける時にも警察の立場でありながら私たちに協力してくれた。頼もしい味方になってくれると思うな。
よし、大石には話そう。で、大石は今はしょ？
Where's our boy?
いえ、隣の県に行っています。
Yep, he's out in Gifu.
高野の死体を確かめに。
ああ、隣の県の山の中でしたっけ？ドラム缶の中で黒焦げって話。でも、なんでわざわざ大石ともあろう人が直々なんでしょうね。
高野の死体が違う可能性があるらしいのです。現地の県警が協力的じゃなくてあやふやなことを言ってるらしいです。
その山犬って連中は機密保持と情報操作が仕事じゃなかったっけ？私はなんだかその死体おかしいなって思うね。というかあの人おとなしく焼いたくらいで死ぬとは思えないんだよね。
my dear, they didn't. She didn't like keep a lighter on too long and burn her thumb. They literally set her ablaze in a drum.
もちろん入江が黒幕で高野を殺した可能性もありますです。山犬のおこのぎはそうだと言っていますです。
監督が黒幕ってことはねえだろう。あの人は悪い人じゃねえと思うんだ。
そうですわよ。目と意とどう発言禁止にしてくれれば基本的にはいい人でございますのよ。
私もひなみざわファイターズの幽霊マネージャーとして監督は黒幕なんて玉じゃないと思います。どっちかというと利用される感じの人です。いい人すぎるというか。
はあ、誰も高野さんの肩を持ってあげない。
PS2 Shion gives everybody life. That smug, yeah, like I was about to say, her smug expression is literally the best.
いやさ、監督と高野さんどっちが悪い人ですかって聞かれたらなあ。
高野さんが聞いたら怒りますわね。
Everyone laughed as though we were in the middle of a club activity. If they're after my life, they'll kill everyone here. It's very possible that they'll all get involved in this mess, and they know that. They could still that they could still laugh is really significant, I think. I started laughing along with them too.
客観的に見て高野さんだけ隣の県で死体が見つかるのがすでにおかしいよ。富武さんを殺した風に偽装するなら死体は絶対に見つからないところに隠す。山中での焼きなんて見つけてくださいって言ってるようなもんだもん。
うん。レナもそう思うな。警察の管轄の及ばない県外で見つかった身元の確認しにくい焼死体を高野さんということにしようとしている気がする。その山犬って人たちはそういうのが本職なんでしょ？
なら構図が見えてきたぞ。山犬ってのは高野さんの部下なんだろ。山犬の隊長は監督が黒幕なんだって主張してるんだろ。高野さんと山犬ってのはグルだな。
富武さんのあの死に方は監督が殺したと思わせるためなんですわね。そしてそれがわかるのは東京だけ。そして本当の黒幕の高野さんの死体も見つかり、監督は東京に2人を殺したことを疑われて濡れ衣を着せられる。なるほど、これはなかなか凝った罠でございますわね。詰めがいまいちでございますけど。
その濡れ衣ってのにも山犬って連中が関わってそうだね。
なあ、そうと分かったら監督に直接話を聞いてみないか。その方が早いぞ。
そうだね。監督が真実を話してくれるか嘘をつくか、私目を見ればわかるから。
Rena is our human lie detector. She's very good at this. Do not doubt this ability.
ああ、レナさん嘘に敏感ですよね。
入江は山犬が監視していると言ってましたです。電話しても出られないか話せないかかもしれませんです。
なんだ聞けば聞くほど 監督は濡れ衣臭いぞ。というか監督の身に危険が迫ってるんじゃないのか。
Unless she isn't.
うん。私が山犬で監督に濡れ衣を着せようと思ったなら、余計なことを言われる前にご退場願うね。
死体に口なしだね。
どうしよう。大石は隣の県警の話が終わったらすぐに戻ってくると言ってましたです。だから時間はわかりませんが、今日必ず来てくれますのです。
Okay, so Oishi's gonna come hang out with us, it sounds like. As one, everyone glanced at the clock. It was already past 6:30 p.m. and starting to get dark.
なんだか腹が減ってきたと思ったらこんな時間なんだな。
We'd usually call it here if this were a normal day, but everyone decided to stay until Oishi came back to discuss what to do.
ごめんね、リカちゃん。電話借りてもいい？お父さんに帰りが遅くなるのを電話しないと。
そうだな。俺もお袋に電話しないとな。
Sleep over at Rika's house!
あ、私もばっちゃんに今夜は出前でよろしくって電話しないとな。こんな時間に抜け抜けとそんなこと電話したら、後でこってり。あと警察の人たちの夕食も考えてあげないとね。本家のツケで寿司でも頼むかね。
Everyone had a sensitive reaction to the word sushi. Their stomachs were empty after all. The same should be true of those officers too.
リカ、うちも出前にしますの？そんなお金の余裕はありませんでしたよ。さとこ、みんなに自慢の野菜炒めでも作ってあげたらどうですか？無理ですわよ。こんな大勢になんか作ったことありませんわ。
さとこの野菜炒めか。指さえ入ってなけりゃぜひ食ってみたいな。
Oh, Jesus Christ.
レナもさとこちゃんのお料理久しぶりに食べたいかな。
At that point, the phone rang.
もしもし、フルデなのです。
よかった。
Yo, it's our boy. All right, on his way. On his way, everybody.
大石です。高野さんの殺害現場の用事を終わらせましてね。
Okay,
今、沖宮に
good,
戻ってい
good.
る途中です。途中のガソリンスタンドから電話しています。
それで、高野の死体はどうでしたか？
やりましたよ。やっぱりそうでした。現地の県警の資料がとんでもないイージーミスをしていました。連中間違いを認めやしない。ガツンと決めてやりましたよ。高野は車ごと行方不明です。富武殺しについて何か事情を知っている可能性が高いと判断し、つい先ほど高野の捜査を開始するよう指示を出したところです。ついにお社様のたたりの尻尾をつかみましたよ。ここから一気に引きずり出しちゃいます。
Oishi sounded so motivated. He finally found the hint he was so desperately wanted. Could he actually solve the
それ
case?
は土産話がとても楽しみなのです。
Oh yeah, like it's confirmed our worst fears. It's real bad. We've got 20 wolves outside the door right now.
これからクマちゃんと一緒にそちらへお伺いしますので、詳しい話を聞かせてください。心当たりでもうさんくさい話でも何でも結構です。
はい、僕も全部話す決心がつきましたです。
おやおや、どんなお話が聞けるのでしょうかね。多分あと1時間ちょいぐらいでお伺いできると思います。
An hour. We gotta hold out for an hour, everybody.
ところで、
Oh
夜明
boy.
けの向こうが賑やかですね。
He's so dependable.
お友達も来ているのですか？
はい、みんな心配してうちに来てくれましたです。
そうですか。皆さんは本当に素晴らしいな。私も皆さんと一緒にいてくれた方がいいと思います。賑やかなだけで 犯罪の抑止効果は大きいものです。では今から向かいます。後ほど。
今の大石さんか？
はい、今から刑事と2人で来るそうです。はあ、この部屋にこんなに大勢なんて初めてだね。何人になるんだろう。私たち6人に2人来て8人ですの？床が抜けそうで怖いですわね。9人目なのです。
Oh, look who wanted to just show up. Now that we have a pleasant atmosphere and maybe a little hope, guess who decided to stop by, everybody? Look who it is.
羽生、聞いてた？なんだか今回は本当にすごいことになってきた。
今回はいけそうですか？
うん、いけるわ、絶対。
絶対という言葉はなって当然、ならなければ失望する悲しい言葉ですよ。
羽生はこの状況になってもやっぱり今日死ぬ。
でも死んでほしくないと思っていますのです。
あんたのスタンスは分かってるわ。傷つきたくないから信じない。マイナス思考ならマイナスで当然、ラッキーなら大喜びってわけだ。もうあんたと私の考え方の違いをとやかく言わないわ。
Damn!
あんたは見てなさい、傍観者らしく。
Wow, just giving it to her now. Just fucking giving it to her.
はい、僕は傍観者ですから。でもリカを応援してますですよ。
Are you really? Are you really, though?
応援か。ありがとう。でも応援していいの？応援したのに負けると期待を裏切られない？
リカが意地悪を言いますです。
Raven's saying what we're all thinking right now. We had a rather harmonious mood going. However, a feeling of unease was beginning to settle over us. And that's where we're cutting for the evening. But we will be back tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. for the finale of this arc. So thanks again, everybody, for coming out. 1 second. So yeah, tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. We're going to wrap this baby up. I think we got some hope. It sounds like Oishi's on his way. Whew. There's a lot at stake here. It sounds like things are going to get real intense. You're probably not going to want to miss it.